It's the Regular Expressions podcast. Join Noah Heldman and Ben Griswold as they talk about technology, consulting, and life. In episode 10, Ben and Noah talk about why technology is the easy part. One example of that is me. I'm Rachel, the AI bot that says whatever is typed. If a human had to do this, they might be needy or entitled. They might even charge $100, whereas I only charge 33 credits.
Hey, Noah.
Hi, Ben.
Hi. This is such a great day. Hey, listen, what I was hoping we could do is chat a little bit more. This is episode 10, and I've decided to move around a little bit, use my hands.
Loosen
and
it up.
So let's just jam. We just threw up a topic earlier today, and I think we can really speak to it. So you've heard me, and I think I've heard you say that when it comes to working with clients on their technology, working on their processes, that it's the tech that's the easy part, which is kind of a weird thing to say when we're a couple of technologists and we want to sell our services. So I want to just explain a bit on why it's technology we believe that's the easy part. How does that sound?
That sounds like a perfect setup for this conversation.
What?
I love it. Technology is the easy part. Maybe it's the easier part because it can be really complicated for sure.
Yeah.
But it's never as complicated in a large organization, especially as making sure the people and the processes are working the way they need to. And I think we, in our careers, have been very excited to build some cool technology, very heads down, very disconnected from are we actually solving the right problem? And we do some cool stuff, and we're proud of how clean and beautiful our code is. And the dev team we're sharing it with every day is just as excited as we are. We're ticking all the boxes, except the box of you built the wrong thing, or you built something that is amazing and doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do, but it's beautifully designed and built. Yeah, all kinds of things can go wrong there. So I know we both have some stories on that side, but yeah, it's all hard. Technology is just a little easier than the rest.
It's a little bit easier. And, you know, when we're working with consultants, typically people that really lean into the tech, well, that's to them the exciting, interesting part. You got the stereotypical engineer, right? Hoodie on, just clacking on the keyboards in a dark room eating Cheetos. Well, that's pretty easy, right? That's what we lean into usually, the stuff that's easy. But let's just say you've got to do a stand-up and explain your work with folks. Now you're interacting with others. Doesn't necessarily work with the stereotypical introverted engineer, right? I really like that story one of our prior colleagues shared. It's like engineers are going to lean into the thing of least resistance, which is the tech. We would hire for people even that had both that consultative, like that people skills, as well as the tech skills. So there are still, a leg ahead, but it's still, they were the technical consultant, not the consultant that knows technology.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I think what happens naturally with us being old guys in this world now is you kind of do start in the individual contributor developer role. And you and I have had very similar career journeys, more complexity, more responsibility, more scale, larger clients as years go by, moving from Agile not even really existing in practice when we started to being formally introduced in the mid-2000s, and then growing our capability and understanding of that and the roles that need to be played. And then you think of someone like a product owner, which, at least in my experience, there have only been a couple of times where an org that we were brought into had a dedicated and capable product owner driving the project from start to completion. So this is one of those areas where, just like you might see a gap in technology, and that's the quote easy part, right? It's like, oh, I'm missing this part of the puzzle and I don't know how to do it. Let me find a specialist to go fill in this gap technically so that we can deliver this thing. On the product owner side, it's pretty different, because we always start by saying, hey, we assume you have a dedicated product owner who is trained and capable and will be available anytime we have questions, and is really going to help drive the vision. It's unfortunately incredibly rare. So that gap has to be filled by somebody. And I know you and I both have had to step into that part-time product owner role. And it's usually kind of like assisting the person who is at the customer and supposed to be the product owner, but they're really not, because they were assigned, they were voluntold, and that's the role that they are supposed to play and really can't play effectively. So we step in and help. And that's one of the things that makes people harder than tech.
Yeah, definitely. You know, just as we're talking this through, I was mentioning the hiring for both the consultant as well as the technologist all in one, right? And I do recall that there's this fear that some engineers have, is they're going to keep moving up that ladder, and eventually they're going to need to become a manager, like a lead first, then a manager, of course, and director and VP, all that stuff, right? So people are like, no, I want to go and stop here at like principal engineer. I don't want to have to, I want to deal with ones and zeros. I don't want to deal with people so much. So we've had to do that in organizations. We carved out a track where, you can end up becoming that super architect person that, yes, still has to sit in front of the customers and still has to work with teams, but internally, but not necessarily have that load of thinking through strategy necessarily, not trying to get stakeholder alignment, not trying to develop just buy-in and excitement within the organization around those things that you're building. It's just, I'm going to decide how we're going to build it, and then I'm going to step away and do the next thing.
Yeah. You made me think of a couple people from our careers, one of whom I don't think you know, but he has always been the quintessential, I just want to code, leave me alone. Has done really impressive things for really massive companies, and was on that track to be the manager, to be the engineering lead, whatever it was, like up and up forced into the career path. And he was just always very clear about resisting that. And it says, no, this is what I want to do. And he's doing it and doing it successfully. So we know that can work. And then there are people on the opposite side who are just focused on how high up can I go on this career track.
Yes.
And I think the ones who go too quickly and maybe get promoted from within lose a lot of visibility into what it takes to deliver. And especially over the last 15 years, maybe with, you think about agile into cloud. And I remember when cloud was just a term, like, what does that even mean? Cloud, that's so strange. Through that cloud journey and into these very purpose-built, decentralized tools that pass data and logic from one to another, all the way through to AI. And at some point, you can't be as hands-on as you need to be through that whole journey. So you have to depend on your people. And again, back to people, this is where the technology side is easier, because you can just figure out how a tool works, why it was designed, what problem it needs to solve. It's probably something you can reason about, wrap your mind around fairly easily. Some things are complicated, sure. But then if you're trying to deal with the people involved in those decisions, especially as a consultant, you have to figure out, am I talking to the CTO who has been hands-on because he or she is a tinkerer from day one, like that's how they operate?
Sure.
Or is it the person who just wanted to get to that CTO level and manage a bunch of stuff. And maybe they do it effectively and maybe they don't. So yeah, people are the worst and the best.
Yeah, there's people. That's really tricky. A lot of times it's culture, it's process, it's tools. Those tend to get in the way. There's a lot of things that just make, delivery, execution just a little bit harder. It makes the building harder, which I think most people who are in me, like at heart, that's what we are. We're builders. Great. But I think we're also able to recognize like we're building for purpose. And that's something that I'm not sure that all engineers get their heads around, right? It's I'm going to work on this task. It isn't necessarily how is this task going to build itself to support this really big vision, right?
Yeah.
There's some right. It's great, right? That's what we're supposed to do, right? This is very like single responsibility principle, and just work on that one function and write your tests around it. And if that works, sure, the whole will work. But you need the overall vision in order to really focus on that one thing and the principles around it. It's tough. It's tough to get around to that, and it definitely is something that you don't need early career because you're just doing basically what you're told. You're fumbling through it, you're getting support, it happens. And it isn't until you start marching up, maybe into that leadership role, which we're all kind of scared about, that you need to be thinking more about that big picture. So there's not a playbook to get you from that early engineering stage to the I need to deal with people and process and tools stage.
And the people side, it trickles down to every interaction and every relationship you have. I thought of a dev team that I worked with while you were talking about this, that had very different levels of experience and expectation. And we realized pretty quickly that when we started out, and I was working with a product person to lay out all of the stories. And at first, they were fairly high level in terms of acceptance criteria because we wanted the team to bring their ideas. We wanted them to think through what's a creative way to solve this, thinking about the sprint goal overall that takes all of these different things into consideration. And we want them to push back. We want them to come to us and say, hey, you recommended building this notification system, but it's not a good idea because of the culture, or it's not a good idea because it's going to be too costly for the scale, whatever the reason might be. And you want that. You want your team to push back on you, and you want the psychological safety to be there for them to feel comfortable to push back. But in this case, we had a team that primarily wanted 2 weeks of work very clearly laid out with detailed acceptance criteria so they could just go do their job. And some of them were in very different time zones. So I get having a runway of work and being able to jump from one thing to another if you don't have someone on the other end who you can reach out to because it's 2 a.m. for them and get that resolved. So pretty interesting dynamic. And we always want to provide that room, that safety for people to question, to invent, to innovate, to create within that framework.
Yeah. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about where we've gone with this conversation. And we had a meet up with, I suppose it was a longtime customer, a bit of an advisor right now. And he just looked us both in the eyes, which is hard to look two people right in the eyes at the same time. And he just said, like, no one who's going to hire you cares about technology.
Yeah.
Like right? It was just point blank. No one cares about technology. And he's hired us for at least 3-4 things now to implement a technical solution to his business problem. And he's totally right. He doesn't care. He says it's just a big headache when he has to deal with even some of the service level agreements with the hosting providers and things. It was great. Like to hear that. What are we doing here? We're working for businesses. They don't care what the tech, what we are here to do, but it's the outcome. And that's a tricky thing. That's what makes it hard. Maybe that's what makes it hard. The thing that we do, nobody cares about, Noah.
Yes. Well, the great thing about that, you just got me super inspired, is now that AI is going to take all of the technology jobs, AI can be the thing that nobody cares about because it's going to be dealing with technology.
Nice.
And we can focus on being human and taking care of people and solving people problems, not technology problems. That's perfect.
This is perfect. Yeah, I think next time we've got to talk about your recent experience with a particular. It was vibe coding, right? You were doing.
Yes, it was.
And how that turned out. Super fun. Yes.
Amazing. That'll be a fun story. Looking forward to it. And we have a meeting to get to just in a couple minutes here, so we got to run.
Yes, we do. All right, I'll see you in 5.
Thanks.
Bye.